type in the chat box will be available. It will be shared to our YouTube page. So don't type or chat anything that you don't want as a public record. So without further ado, I'm going to read their bios. So Judge Sheila Calloway is a native of Louisville, Kentucky, and she came to Nashville in 1987 to attend Vanderbilt University Law School. She received her Bachelor of Arts degree in Communications in 1991 and her Doctor of Jurisprudence in 1994. After graduating from law school, Sheila Calloway worked at the Metropolitan Defender's Office in the adult system as well as the juvenile system. In January 2004, she was appointed by Judge Betty Adams Green to the position of Juvenile Court Magistrate and served in that position until November 2013, when she announced her intention to run for the position of Juvenile Court Judge. Sheila was elected Davidson County's Juvenile Court Judge in 2014 and was sworn into office for her 8-year term on August 28, 2014. Judge Calloway also serves as an adjunct professor at Vanderbilt University, where she teaches both in the undergraduate and law schools, and an adjunct professor in Belmont College of Law, where she teaches juvenile law. Judge Calloway uses her unique combination of humor, passion, and judicial wisdom to change the way we look at justice in the United States. I could not agree with that more. Oh, my goodness.
Very true.
We're already dropping truth bombs in here. Okay, so now I'm going to read Kathy Sinback, or Catherine Sinback's bio. So she's the court administrator for the Davidson County Juvenile Court, where she oversees the operations of the court for Judge Sheila Calloway. Prior to being appointed court administrator in 2014, Catherine was an attorney with the Metropolitan Department of Law, where she served as the senior attorney for the Metropolitan Nashville Police Department and Metropolitan Nashville Public Schools. Previously, Catherine represented youth facing transfer to the adult criminal justice system as the transfer attorney for the Metropolitan Public Defender's Office. Catherine recently served as a member of the Tennessee General Assembly's Blue Ribbon Task Force on Juvenile Justice and is a current member of the Tennessee Joint Task Force on Children's Justice and Child Sexual Abuse. Catherine conducts trainings throughout the state on juvenile justice issues. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and let them get started, but I do want to say these women are amazing, and they really are transforming the way that we provide justice to children, youth, and young adults, not only in the state, but they're a model for people nationally. So with that, share your wisdom, drop some truth bombs.
Thank you. And we're excited about this opportunity and just happy to be a part of this webinar. And, you know, when we think about juvenile court and transforming the way that we do business and all the stuff that we do, we have to remember that the people who work for agencies like juvenile courts truly are in a situation where we're around trauma a lot. And so what we're talking about today is building a trauma-informed juvenile court from the ground up, because it's super important when you think about just the families and children that we see, primarily who are in crisis situations, and how we take all of that in. It's a lot of trauma, and we have to make sure that we are a trauma-informed court, and that's why we want to talk about today. Kathy?
So we are going to talk about this as if we're building not a house, but a new juvenile justice center, which is our ultimate goal, is to build soon, hopefully, a new trauma-informed justice center. And so I really wanted to think about this in terms of building. And so the beginning of our work together, and starting in 2014, of creating a trauma-informed juvenile court really began with the foundation, and that's Judge Calloway's 3 Ps that she brought and talked to all the staff about on her very first day as the juvenile court judge. And I am going to let you hear her description of why these things are important.
Absolutely. And so when I think about what we have to do as a juvenile court, there are 3 main core things that have to be involved. Number 1, it is our responsibility and our duty to prevent problems from happening. When I think about preventing problems, I think about literally all of the children and families that we serve and the situations that they are in. And what our job is, it's not just about hearing cases and sending people on their way. It's about making sure that we are equipping them for future and that we are helping to prevent any problems, whether it's with the lifestyle of that child growing up, whether it's with the family, whether it's with children coming behind them. But our duty and our job is to prevent problems from happening. Secondly, we have to promote the positive potential of everyone that we meet. That includes the children that we serve, the families that we serve, and even our staff employees. Each and every one of us has positive potential deep inside of us. Sometimes because of circumstances that happen to our children in their lives, sometimes we don't always see that potential. We don't see that positiveness. And then sometimes people get into job atmospheres where they are not placed in a position that actually helps them with their strengths. And so we as an organization have to always be thinking about the positive potential that each one of us possess. And we've got to do what we can to promote that positive potential. And finally, as a court system, it is our duty, it is our obligation to make sure that we are pursuing fairness and hope for all those who come through this system. They have to know that they are being treated fairly, whether they win a case or not, and that they have the right to be heard, that they have the right to be listened to, that they are being treated with fairness, and that they have hope. So many of our youth that we see, and even some of the families and the parents that come to this court system, have never had hope, and never had hope for their future. But it is our job to make sure that we are helping them to pursue hope and that we're helping them to find it at every corner that they come to.
So for those of you who work in organizations, lead organizations, are interested in making your group trauma-informed, this foundation was very essential for us to start off and for everyone in the court to know that these are the goals, this is the vision, and to really create that positive message. That is a crucial part of laying the foundation for, especially if you have issues where your organization may not already be fully trauma-informed, to start with that strong message of positivity, of really getting everyone on the same page in terms of, okay, this is what we're doing here. I remember in an early conversation about juvenile justice when I first started as a court administrator, I was in a meeting and we were talking about parents having to wait a few hours to go to a community court program, and there were a couple people in the room who were like, oh, that's a good thing, because if they have to wait, that's like a disincentive for them to come back, and so, you know, that's going to make it hard for them, and then they'll know not to come back into the juvenile justice system. And I thought, no, that's not what we're doing here. We're not trying to make people's lives harder and more difficult. We're really trying to promote that positive potential and really starting to look at things in a different way. But that, for many years, when we were public defenders, that was just the way people thought about it, is there's the deterrent factor, that if it's unpleasant, if it's difficult and uncomfortable, then you won't get in trouble. But we know now from all the research, you all know, that doesn't work. And so laying that foundation that, okay, we're going to kind of change the way we're thinking here.
You know, just like you're building a house or building a building, which we hope to be doing soon, is you got to do it brick by brick. And for me, when I first started, it was really about the staff. And it was about how they were feeling, because I knew that if they weren't feeling good about the positions that they were in, they weren't feeling the passion of why they started in juvenile court in the first place, if they have forgotten what their goals were, then they could not give good service to their clients that they were serving. And so we had to make sure that we were aligning all of our current staff members' roles with their strengths and with their passions. And so, you know, I'll let Kathy talk a little more about what she did, but that was the goal. It was like we knew we had people that were doing work that was not in their strength level. And so when they became unhappy and they got frustrated in their job, that totally came out in the people that they were working with. And so, you know, they were unhappy. They were displaying how unhappy they were, and that, you know, explanation of how unhappy they were went straight to the clients that they were serving, who then became unhappy as well. And so you had a lot of unhappiness and, just a circular system where we could not do good service. And so we took a long time to make sure, and a lot of effort to make sure that we were aligning the strengths and the passions of our people with what their jobs were. And Kathy did a lot of work on that.
It was a big undertaking. We have about 120 staff members at Juvenile Court, and we met with every single one of them. When I first came on as court administrator, I had 30-minute meetings with all the staff and found out all sorts of things about the culture of the court and especially how people felt in their current jobs, and realized that there were, like Sheila said, there were a lot of people who were not in an area that they were passionate about, and there were people who had master's degrees in social work who were working in a clerical position that wasn't fulfilling them. They wanted to be working directly with families. There were some people working directly with families who didn't want to be working directly with direct service, and trying to find out what does everyone love, what do they like about their job, what do they wish they were doing. And then we actually had numerous people after Judge Calloway started who were able to finish their college degrees, which we encouraged them through, and then we immediately moved them up to higher positions in the court, more, better paying positions and positions that were more aligned with their strengths, and really encouraged staff to reach for their goals and to really try to reach their dreams.
It was a big undertaking, but we did it brick by brick. And so one of the first things we did is that we made sure, and we continuously make sure, that we have very fair and transparent hiring and promotion practices. A lot of people thought when I first started that the people who may have supported my opponent would lose their job or would get unfair job opportunities within the court system. I made it clear from day one that that's not how I roll, that's not how I operate, and that everybody has the opportunity to be hired in, that everybody has the opportunity to be promoted if they're doing their job and they're doing it well. It's not any, there were no promises on the campaign trail that, these people who support me, who do all this work, are going to get hired and these people will get fired. There was none of that. It was from day one, we're going to be fair, we're going to be transparent on everybody that we hire and everybody that we promote.
And we really have held ourselves accountable. We've continued to improve our hiring and promotion practices by pulling in members of the community into our interview panels. Initially, we were just it was trial and error at first, but we've really realized that we want as many voices as possible, and that we really want to know, we'll talk a little bit later about how we select staff now, but we really want to make sure we're picking the right people and not just somebody who we heard good things about or somebody who we might know from outside the court, that we're really finding the very best people who are going to want to help us build a trauma-informed court, and that the employees know. How do you apply for promotions? How is our hiring working? That people feel comfortable that they have an opportunity to advance. The next thing we did was we maximized pay under the applicable guidelines. So Judge Calloway said, I want everyone to get paid as much as they possibly can. I know they've been getting paid too little for years. Some of them are not even making a living wage. And so we need to look at the Metro guidelines. That's our agency's umbrella governmental entity. And we need to maximize everything that we can, and especially their ability to advance. So if they're in a lower bracket, let's move them up so that they can actually continue to make steps to get more and more advancement. And so we went in and we looked at everything. We had to change some of the job descriptions and the jobs under the Metro rules. We had to create some new processes. We created something called when you automatically go up to probation officer 2. I just glitched on the name of it.
I'll just say previously, the describing practice that normally was happening is that everybody was starting as a probation officer 1 level, and you only got promoted to probation officer 2 when there was a person that was in a 2 left or quit or went somewhere else. And so there were very few probation officer 2 levels and very few probation officer 3 levels. And, what that did was encourage people to kind of backstab, kind of be a little more competitive on their jobs.
They had to fight each other for the promotion.
Absolutely. They were fighting each other, and they were, pointing out things that each other were doing.
Not the strengths.
Not the strengths. And so we needed to change that culture, and we needed to make a difference. And so now it's a target thing. And so as long as you're doing well on your evaluations and you're achieving your benchmarks for your job level, then you automatically move up to the PO2 level. And that comes with the increase in your salary. And so that gives people the motivation to do their jobs and do their jobs well. And it's not about bringing down someone else so that you can look good. It's about everybody working together as a team so that we can all improve and that we can all provide better services for our youth and our families.
We did that for our warrant officers and our probation officers, and we're trying to expand that to other positions in the court now. So really looking out for our employees and making sure that we're taking care of them in the pocket, because if they're not if they're not able to live comfortably, then they can't be helping us create a trauma-informed court.
And that goes right along with we created opportunities for advancement. So we gave more people excuse me, we gave more people the ability to be able to advance into different areas of the court and to do different things.
We also, there were a lot of employees of the court that did not have civil service protections that were entitled to civil service protections, and just for years they had not had that, that status. And so Judge Calloway said, I want to immediately change everyone we can to civil service. So everyone who is now not a grant employee, which they can't be civil service if they're on a grant, but everyone who's not under a grant now has civil service protection at the juvenile court, which was just unprecedented.
And we do a lot of new pro-employee policies on leave and work conditions. So we're making it where people can, feel more comfortable about being able to take time off if they are feeling overwhelmed or feeling as if the job is too much to handle. It doesn't take a whole lot to ask their supervisor for some time off. We allow people to work in different work settings, like if they are here in one of the open work settings and they're trying to get out an assessment report or some type of highly confidential document that they need to really concentrate on, and it may be hard to do in that workspace because it's open and people are coming back and forth and talking, then they are more than welcome to talk with their supervisor about finding a quiet place somewhere out in the community where they can finish their work and be able to get the quality work that they need to get done.
We have an employee enhancement manual that we recently rolled out, which has all of our office policies as well as the Metro policies. But we did that in a way that was very positive, youth justice focused, and restorative and trauma-informed, and used language on purpose that expressed those values in all of our work policies. Another thing that's important is having a quick and fair resolution of employee conflicts and discipline. And this is really my role, so I'll talk about this because I'm the hammer when I need to be. But it's really important to not have that be something that is used unfairly or that is used to intimidate employees or make them feel like they're always walking on eggshells. But it is important to quickly resolve employee conflicts, especially if there are things like harassment or mistreatment of employees. It is crucial that you jump in, that the employees know that you've got their back, that you're going to protect them from anything that could be hostile or uncomfortable in their workplace, and that you're going to do it in a way that's diplomatic, that's fair, that's transparent, and it doesn't always have the outcome that every employee wants, but we are working and continuing to work to make that process really as fair and as positive and trauma-informed as it can be.
And so the other that we are working on is that we are supporting our employees with personal situations. So like if an employee has housing or family or health issues, and we are there to help them and to really give them a voice, a opportunity to, if it's just a vent, if it's, I need a few hours off so that I can, pay a deposit on my new apartment. We're really working hard to make sure that we are accommodating all the needs of our employees in their personal situations.
Also, having a positive and encouraging attitude towards accommodations. That's if an employee needs a special accommodations to be able to do their work, either because of a disability or some sort of personal circumstance. We really work very hard to make those accommodations. And I remember studying when I represented Metro, learning about employment law and how people across the country deal with accommodations issues, and it seemed like a lot of employers had very bad attitudes, that if somebody came to them and said, I need this extra assistance, that they'd be like, oh, this is just a difficult person. And I said, we're not going to be that kind of court. We're not going, that's not what Judge Calloway wants. So we need to make sure that we're encouraging when people have special needs.
Absolutely. And we also encourage people on a regular basis to use the Metro Employee Assistance Program. And that's like if they're having a hard time dealing with something and they need some counseling and need to talk to someone. Metro government offers a very wonderful employee assistance program. But what we also do is we don't make them do it like on their own time. They're allowed to use just part of their job, self-care. And so if you set up a counseling appointment that's at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, you don't have to take sick time to do that. That's part of your job, and we're allowing you just to go as part of your job. Anything else? No. And so we're laying the foundations. We continue to lay the bricks. We're doing more with team building within our divisions so that everybody can learn to support one another and not hurt one another and not try to bring each other down, but rather to build each other up as we continue to build on our teams. We do a lot of fun group activities.
Judge Calloway is very fun.
I love the fun. When you think about the work that we do and just the magnitude of the overwhelmness of the crises of the people that we deal with, you got to have some fun. And so I make sure that we provide fun activities, try to do it on a regular basis. We'll have a Friday night dance or Friday afternoon dance party where we just bring out speakers and just encourage people just to step away from their desk.
Hey, we did that once, and it didn't go over very well. People made fun of me for a week for doing that. We did a lot of really fun things, though.
And her dancing, you had to make fun of her, but it was a lot of fun.
But no, when we have training, a judge will always tell us we can't schedule training for the second half of the second day because she wants people to go out and do fun things, go bowling, go do something that's as a team, which is an important part of your job. We feel like that's completely justifiable with the type of trauma that people go through. We don't think it's goofing off to say we need some time, we need some downtime to have fun activities.
Absolutely. We do a monthly newsletter where we try to keep all employees informed of everything that's going on in the court and around our community about children and youth. Within that newsletter, we have an above and beyond section where employees are encouraged to nominate some of their coworkers for some of the positive things that we did. Like last month we had one employee there was a young girl that was sitting on the ground coloring, and our employee got right down next to her and started coloring with her. And I know it made that young girl feel really good, and I can't imagine how our employee got up, but but she got up, and it was a step away from her her normal job, but it was something that was benefiting the court and the youth that we serve in the court. We also, we spend a lot of time in the newsletters to recognize our staff and to give updates about what's going on in the courtroom, in the courthouse, so that everybody's on the same page and no information is going to one group of people and not to the other, but everybody has the same knowledge of all of the activities that we're doing and can participate in everything that we do.
The important thing about that is with the above and beyond, you really have to, when we talk about strengths-based and building the foundation for a trauma-informed court, it really has to be from top to bottom. And building the strengths, and it's not only what you are telling people, but what you promote and what you recognize as being good performance. And so when we do above and beyond, we're recognizing those things that exemplify what we want people to do in the court, what we are hoping people will aspire to, which is really going the extra mile to help somebody, make somebody's day better, and really show what our court is about.
And like Kathy said, I like to have a lot of fun, and so we do have some fun activities. We're gearing up now for our annual Spooktacular event, when anybody is welcome to come on out. It's on Halloween, October 31st. You have to wear a costume when you come. Last year, Kathy and I were Donald Duck and Daisy Duck. Mm-hmm. I got to be Donald. I don't know how, but she was Daisy. She got the cuter outfit. I'm gonna let that go. I don't know what we're doing this year, but we're gonna have fun. But it's an opportunity for us. The hours are 4 to 6, and we invite community partners to come and help do trunk or treat, and so they pass out candies from their cars in the back parking lot. We have bands that come and play. We have the game master from the Metro Police Department that comes and does a lot of activities for the youth. We decorate the entire courthouse from top to bottom, and the courtrooms some of them are haunted, some of them are just cute. We've got storytellers, we've got puppeteers.
She could go on all day about Spooktacular.
I could go all day about Spooktacular. It is my favorite thing. And, the thing about Spooktacular, it gives us an opportunity to open up the building to the youth in their communities that may not have the opportunity to go trick-or-treating because their neighborhoods may not be as safe as it was when I was growing up in trick-or-treating. And it gives them an opportunity to dress up and just come and have a ball. We also give away costumes as well. The week before, we have a costume drive, and first come, first serve, get your costumes. So it's a wonderful activity. The staff love it. And I was trying to schedule a meeting with one of my staff members on that day in the morning, and she was like, no, I can't meet you that day. We're winning the contest this year, and we're going to be decorating all day. And so I was like, okay,
it gets better
all right.
every year.
It does get better every year. But we do things like that. I give them a big appreciation lunch. That comes straight out. It's not Metro government money. It's straight out of my pocket. It's just for my appreciation for my staff. We do it every year. And I bring in caterers so they don't have to clean up and cook. And
she serves them. She actually distributes the food.
It's something that we have to do to recognize the wonderful work that our staff do. We celebrate Veterans Day, Christmas, anything that we can. We give them an opportunity to kind of celebrate.
One of the things, now we're getting to the point of really starting to talk about the intellectual foundation for trauma. So you have the staff culture, and then we also have the training, and that's really essential. Which is the things that we train all of our staff on regularly, adverse childhood experiences, trauma, motivational interviewing. We do poverty simulations. We had a wonderful presentation by Dr. Patty Van Ice about the power of calm, where we talked about how kids will trigger us, and they'll trigger our own ACEs, and sometimes we respond to those triggers, and how do we stay calm when our buttons are being pushed by youth. Implicit bias, LGBTQ support, secondary traumatic stress, compassion fatigue, and vicarious trauma, self-care strategies, principles of effective intervention, and cognitive interaction skills. And those are things that are laying the foundation, getting the staff ready to really start to understand the principles that will enable us to build a trauma-informed court. But what's important to know is that training isn't enough. You can train and train and train, but if people don't know what to do with that training, then all it is words. And so we are going to talk a little bit in a minute about the next step of creating a trauma-informed court. But before that, the last foundational piece is staff selection, so picking the right people to help build the trauma-informed court. These are the qualities that we now look for. And this, like I said, it was a trial and error at the beginning with hiring because we didn't know what we were looking for. And now we know, and we have ways. We do essays and for some of our positions, and we have all sorts of ways of judging these criteria that are important for us. Emotional intelligence, understanding of the traumatic nature of our jobs and the importance of self-care, mature, open, and affirming people. And I took that directly from a trainer who does our LGBTQ training. Hi, Pam Sheffer from Just Us. And she sent me an email the other day that said she was so impressed with our staff who went to the training recently, and that we are really getting good at hiring people who are mature, open, and affirming. And I said, I'm adding that to our list of qualities that we look for because we're always trying to figure out what are those characteristics that help us be more trauma-informed. Compassion and empathy combined with good boundaries. You can't just have compassion and empathy alone. It'll get you in trouble.
Kathy knows well about that.
Yeah, I've been there. Understanding the backgrounds of our children and families, understanding ACEs and trauma, and we ask ACE and trauma questions on the essays, the initial step of the interview for some of our positions. But we do those trainings on a regular basis. And the next step is actually building the trauma-informed court. So we've laid the foundation. And now we're going to talk about a very special project that we've been working on with the Family Center. And we want to give a shout out to Brad Palmertree and all of the people who have worked with us at the Family Center on our building trauma-informed court. Family Center was the recipient of a grant specifically to help work with us on taking ACEs from theory to practice. And so we are just delighted to be really a model and a pilot for this practice. But the project vision is a trauma-informed juvenile court that identifies individuals who have experienced trauma, ensures the provision of appropriate intervention services, and improves the health and well-being of youth, families, staff, and the Nashville community.
I'll say Brad and Adrian and their team have done
and Laura, the new
person. Our new supervisor for them, are doing an excellent job of making sure that we are staying on focus. And so they have helped us to form a fostering resilience committee. And this committee has been meeting since November of 2018. We have about 14 staff members that are part of the committee. They're from diverse groups throughout the entire courthouse. So we've got warrant officers, support intervention accountability officers,
longtime employees, new employees,
just the whole gamut of people involved. And then a magistrate, one of the magistrates is also on the committee as well. And so it includes everybody, every kind of position within the courthouse. They meet twice a month for 2 hours. Our vision statement is that we're going to have a trauma-free Davidson County.
That is the vision statement that was developed by the Fostering Resilience Committee, and they also have developed a mission statement.
Which is we will create a more positive, results-oriented community by empowering juvenile justice staff to provide trauma-informed support services. And so it's just important for us. It's not just about the court and about the court making the changes, but we've got to really make the changes so that our community can be trauma-free.
They've studied and learned about compassion fatigue, burnout, vicarious trauma, and secondary traumatic stress. They designed and implemented a wellness assessment that they gave to all staff. And they also instituted a full trauma assessment based on the National Child Traumatic Stress Network's essential elements of a trauma-informed juvenile justice system. And so they have, this trauma assessment went throughout the entire court and was a self-assessment to determine how we're doing on these 8 essential trauma-informed practices for a juvenile justice system. And the first one is trauma-informed policies and procedures.
And the second one is identification, screening of youth who have been traumatized.
And we've been doing screening and assessments since Judge Calloway started pretty much, since 2015, but we are really streamlining and improving our practices with a new program, a new implementation of the way we do youth screening. So we just created a juvenile detention risk assessment, which we are currently testing, and we've instituted it, but we're doing making sure that it's reliable and validating it, and we're working with the CJI, the Criminal Justice Institute, is helping us with that. We are also starting a static risk assessment to determine which youth should be charged and which youth should be diverted, and then for youth who are adjudicated, all those youth are going to be going through a risk needs responsivity tool, which is going to be the CANS JJ 2.0. And this is all part of what came out of the Juvenile Justice Reform Act out of the General Assembly, which said that all of Tennessee is going to start using screening tools to make sure that we're providing the right services to the right youth.
3, the clinical assessment intervention for trauma-impaired youth.
Making sure we're using evidence-based practices.
4, of course, training, trauma-informed programming, and staff education. We love that training. 5, the prevention and management of secondary traumatic stress. Number 6, the trauma-informed partnering with youth and families. And number 7, the trauma-informed cross-system collaboration. 8, the trauma-informed approaches to address disparities in diversity.
So those are the 8 areas that our Fostering Resilience Committee was measuring with the tool that was given to all of our staff. And I'm going to show you, we'll show you an example of one of the data points that we got out of that tool, which is the tool goes through each one of those 8 factors and assesses our court, and had the staff assess the court. And then it has a report out and comments on each of those factors. It's extremely detailed and informative. And this is the one for EE4, which is trauma-informed programming and staff education. So this is the principle that about how well are we training our staff. The green means we're doing well. The yellow means we still need to work on it. And then the red is, those are our areas that we really need to work on. Those are our areas of highest need. So just to go through a few of these, some of the good things that we found out, our staff said they've received training on how childhood trauma affects people, the new hires and ongoing, received training in specific skills for working with traumatized individuals, like de-escalation skills. They can recognize when an individual is triggered or having a trauma reaction, know how to de-escalate an individual who's having a trauma reaction. My organization provides periodic refresher or booster trainings on trauma, and I've received training on the relationship between history, culture, gender, and the experience of trauma, including how people understand and respond to traumatic stress, different practices, beliefs, and rituals. So that's exciting. That's the stuff we're doing really well on. And then in the yellow is lighting in all areas is adequate to ensure visibility and security while reducing glare and harsh light in program and living areas. Our building is awful. We actually have sewage coming down the walls. And I'm not trying to just promote getting our new building funded, although if anyone's out there that has any connections, we have a new building that's in the works. It's already been approved as part of the capital improvements budget, but it hasn't been funded yet. But it would actually be a trauma-informed building that would correct a lot of these problems. The facility or program artwork displays are empowering, hopeful, recovery-focused, and culturally representative of the population served. Shower areas facilitate reasonable supervision while allowing privacy for individual use, all things that we need to work on for our detention facility.
Right, and for those who don't know, our detention facility is part of our building and part of our our job to oversee as well. And so the areas within that in the detention as well were part of the study and part of what we're doing. And there's someone on the committee, the resilience committee, that works in our detention facility as well.
And they determined that the areas we really need to work on are needing more training to work effectively with traumatized youth, needing an expert in trauma in our agency or another agency that they can consult with about the youth in the organization. The facility construction allows for natural light and reasonable view of the outside and nature for staff and youth. That will be nice someday. Consideration's been given to noise reduction in all areas of the facility. Items such as sound panels and carpeting. Program areas and living units are typically clean and free of clutter or debris and odors. Living units and program structure are designed to ensure space for youth to interact and socialize, as well as engage in more individual activities like reading, resting, or engaging in wellness activities. And there's a space for staff and youth families to meet privately without disrupting programming for others. So a lot of these are facility-based, and I would encourage everyone to go over to the Office of Family Safety if you want to see an example of a really trauma-informed building that has a lot of these things, that natural light for everyone, free of debris and odors so kids can play on the floor, all of those things that are so important to a space. And just the fact that our staff, while they're waiting for us to be able to get our new building, that they've remained so positive and so trauma-informed in such a non-trauma-informed space has been really incredible and such an inspiration for us. So the upcoming goals of the Fostering Resilience Committee, the next steps, you want to go through those?
I can. So, we're going to develop a plan of action to address the areas of need that we just went over from the organizational assets. And so for each category, there are some issues of addressing that we need to address that were like in the yellow or in the red spots. And so we're going to have action plans to make sure that we're addressing those concerns and that we're putting some action on it. We're asking for the full staff support in carrying out each of the action plan, and so this will go out court-wide, and we will get some buy-in and some input, and we will hope to communicate on a regular basis everything that's going on with the committee and how they can relate to each and every one of the staff members and how each staff person has an opportunity to be a part of the solutions. We're completely open for feedback and suggestions for all the staff. We try to let them know that on a regular basis, that they've got issues or things that they need to talk about. That's something that we are very open about doing. And we want to make sure that we hold space for honest and sometimes very difficult conversations. A lot of times we have they'll have the resilience committee meetings or just staff meetings where, we're really trying to address what's going on in the building, how they really feel. And, Kathy and I know a lot of those times that if we're in that room, they may not say everything that they want to say. And so we will, design it where it's a good, open space for them to talk honestly. And so we'll leave and we'll go somewhere else, give them that opportunity to really have those conversations without us, and then have someone report back to us the things that the staff really talked about and really want us to work on.
And that, just speaking of having honest conversations, building a trauma-informed court requires people to hold each other accountable. And one example that I was just thinking about is early on, I remember we were just starting out on the path of becoming trauma-informed, and we had a problem where the smokers outside the building were leaving cigarette butts everywhere. And so Sheila and I got really upset, and we were like, we're going to send out an email, and we're going to say, we've got cameras out there, and if you're smoking, we're going to know who you are. And we sent out some crazy email. And somebody in our staff said to me, you know who you are, said to me, that's not very trauma-informed. Maybe you kind of should see what are their needs. Do they, maybe their needs aren't being met. Maybe, and she was so right, because people just got mad. There were more cigarette butts after we sent that email. But once we started kind of working with people and really communicating in a more trauma-informed way, that problem went away. So it really is important. We have to hold ourselves accountable.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. From the top down.
From the top down. We have to call each other out.
I get called out all the time. So, when you're doing this, there are going to be challenges. There are going to be struggles. I joke with Kathy a lot that every time I say, ooh, things feel like they're going really, really well, then, something happens and we're like, oh, no, we're back to square one. But, progress is never linear. And you take 3 steps forward and maybe 1 step back, but we're still moving forward. And so, our challenges that we're still working on, we're still trying to build that trust with a lot of our staff members. A lot of our members have been here for years and have been through different, 3 or 4 different administrations and judges. And, the factor of, oh, yeah, I've heard this before, that's not going to work out. It sometimes is fresh. And so we have to continue to do the things that we need to do to help build trust with our staff members.
And then communicating the big picture to the whole staff. There are a lot of misperceptions about trauma-informed courts that even some of our staff still have. Some people think, oh, we're so nice to the kids that juvenile crime is going up. We hear staff members say that, and the truth is juvenile crime is down. From the last 104 weeks, it's down 33.2%. From this time last year to this time this year. Even serious crimes, the kids committing serious crimes are down 29%. Crime is going down. All juvenile crime is going down. And so it's important for our staff to know that what they're doing is actually working, because if they just read the newspaper and they hear people who are mad at juveniles, they're not getting the whole picture of what's really going on and the effect that they're having in kids' lives with trauma-informed care.
And that goes right along with the public's misunderstanding of what it means to be a trauma-informed court. I hear on a regular basis that Judge Calloway is not doing anything down in juvenile court. She's just giving these kids a slap on the wrist and
giving them cookies and milk.
Giving them cookies and milk before bedtime after they've done a serious crime. And it's a total misunderstanding of all the stuff that we do here. And does a disservice to the community, does a disservice to our staff who work tirelessly on trying to make a difference in these children's lives. And, being trauma-informed doesn't mean that people aren't held accountable. What we as a community have to recognize is that accountability doesn't always equal incarceration. That's not the same. And so until we recognize that incarceration is overused, it's overabused, and it doesn't work, then we're not going to move the needle of misunderstanding. And so we preach all the time or talk all the time or make sure that our staff understand all the time that accountability doesn't have to be incarceration, and being trauma-informed doesn't mean being soft on crime. They're not the same thing. And the more we talk about it and the more we explain it in the community, the more we make sure that our staff understand it, the better our community can understand that what we're doing, it really is working.
And that doesn't mean the fact that we want to reduce incarceration of juveniles overall doesn't mean that we don't have kids that need to be out of the community. We have kids that are all the time who are put in the custody of the Department of Children's Services and are unfortunately have to be removed from their home by the court because they're not safe. They're not safe to themselves or to others. But there are so many misunderstandings. People think that all we are is a restorative justice court where all we do is get in a circle and talk to kids. No, there are times when there need to be responses that ensure the public safety. But trauma-informed care is about public safety. It's about increasing the effectiveness of what we're doing with kids so that they won't come back into the juvenile system and so that they won't end up in the adult system.
Amen.
Oh, it's been hard involving staff in decision-making while still getting things done in a timely manner, and we've had a lot of technical assistance on this. There's a whole thing called implementation science that we really weren't experts in when we first started that we've learned a lot about, and CJI, Jasmine Jackson from CJI has helped us a lot with learning about this. But there are ways to involve staff in decision-making without stopping and asking every staff member a question about every single issue. There are ways to get representation from staff in the right places in the right meetings, and that's something that we continue to learn. It's been a challenge, and it's something because we wish that we could just stop and talk to every single person about every decision we make. But unfortunately, that doesn't ever get things done. So that's something that we're continuing to balance.
And finally, we're trying to make sure that the work environment and the space problems are going to get resolved and help us to build a trauma-informed court. This really is something that is a necessary, is a need of the court. It's not something that we want. It's something that we absolutely have to have. If you imagine walking into a building and you've been traumatized, you've been abused, you've been neglected for all your life, and you walk into a building that is designed to keep you calm by the color, by the lighting, by the structure, then your chance of building your resilience up, your chance of turning your life around and changing that trauma to become a better, more productive citizen, it makes a difference. Just if you think about times that you've gone into a drab, dreary-looking building, and how does that make you feel? It makes you feel, sad and depressed. And versus when you go into a building that's got natural lights, that's got good sound, that's not too loud, not too soft, that you can feel comfortable in. When you go into that building, it's like, oh, I can go in this building again. I can stay in this building. I can feel safe in this building. Those are what we have to have for our youth. If I would love to be able to, give numbers of the number of kids that we see, the number of children and youth that we see on a regular basis that have been abused or neglected. And thousands every year that we see. And even those youth who are making bad decisions, who are doing crimes within their community, more than likely they also have been abused or neglected, and they're crying out because of it, and their actions are because of what they've been through. And so when you think about the thousands that come through here and come to this court system with all of that baggage that they bring, we need to be able to lift some of that baggage just by them walking into the space, just by walking into the space, so that they can feel that they are loved, they are cared for, that they are going to be protected, that things are going to be okay. That helps build that resilience that they need to be successful in life.
And the staff need it. The staff need that space and that care and that environment to be able to deal with their secondary trauma and to be able to really give their best to our children and families. So I'd like to take a couple questions if we can.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so if folks if you'll remember, there's like a little kind of series of round icons at the bottom of your screen, and there's one that looks like a thought bubble. So if you will hit that and type it in the chat box, we'll accept questions. While folks are thinking and typing in their questions, I'll go ahead and I have a couple reflections about what these wonderful women have said today. And the first reflection I have is that in any trauma-informed work or practice, it is about doing the hard work of looking internally, and building up your staff and building their bench strength and their capacity to serve people well,
Absolutely.
The other reflection I had is that I love that you shared some steps along the way.
Oh, there have been a lot. We could go on all day. Our staff, ask our staff.
Yeah, they can tell you all the missteps.
Yeah. That will happen, right?
Absolutely.
And it's about like putting ego to the side.
Absolutely.
And that is you all modeling that for folks, that it's like, okay, we had a misstep. And we can admit that, and the world's not going to end, and we're just going to fix it from here. Allow staff to be more vulnerable with you all.
Absolutely. That's the key.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We all make mistakes.
Absolutely.
And that's what we always work with our supervisors on, is making it so you can't just make people feel bad because they make mistakes.
Yeah.
You know, you have to build people up and build on their strengths. And, yeah.
And you all already had such a great reputation for retaining staff, but I wonder now, like, what are some of the, even in terms of, like, efficiency in the workplace and, like, productivity, are you all seeing that those things go up? Because the research indicates that when you do these practices, not only are they good for, you know, your outcomes, but they're also good for business and saving dollars.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. We have.
We're twins.
Yes. No,
Just like alike.
I am fortunate to be able to really monitor the work product of staff, and I'm just blown away, almost to tears on a daily basis, by the work that our staff put in. We have staff who stay late every night. You know who you are. Trying to make sure that every child is taken care of. I hear people in the hall. Can I help you? You know, going up to people. And, you know, years ago, I don't remember this being a happy place where people were smiling. And it has been just, it's gotten better and better through the years. And now it's a place where people don't ever say, that's not my job.
Yeah.
And it's just such a testament to our staff, our wonderful, amazing staff. And to Judge Calloway setting that tone, that we, you know, we do better when we help each other. We do better when we build on each other's strengths, when we talk to each other instead of talking about each other. You know, all those things are lessons that we have to remind ourselves of all the time, but our staff have really exemplified that.
It's just so clear to me, both with you all here and what you're doing. Your why is so apparent, because change and doing things differently is the hardest answer, right?
Absolutely.
And it's the most, but you know, it would be easier to just keep the status quo, for you to have been elected and for you to say, well, we might change this, that, or the other, but you're doing a complete overhaul that you have been actively working on since you took office. And it is clearly driven by your why, you know, and it is really showing up in your staff. I mean, they represent you all so well in the community.
Awesome.
So please, people, type some questions.
I will add, just as we're waiting, I'll say patience is one of those things that I have not been the best at. And, you know, the staff kind of laugh as, you know, I say, we're going to change this, and we're going to do it by June, June 1st. And they look at me like, yeah, that's going to happen. And this has been, for me, I don't know if that's like a misstep or a misspeak sometimes. I don't think I recognize how culture has to change and how you have to be slow and deliberate, and you got to bring people along. And some people will walk, you know, right with you and be like, I'm there, I'm ready, let's go, let's change this culture. Yeah. And then it takes people time, especially when they've been in it for so long, some ways. Yeah. And to, like, total have a flip of mind and heart and everything takes time. But when it's done, it's just amazing.
Transformative.
Like, it's transformative. Some of the people that we've worked with for years, you know, yeah, I might get angry on the bench every once in a while, and they'll look at me like, what? Well, you know, what are you doing? You know,
we don't do this here.
Yeah, you need to take a recess or something. This ain't right, you know. And so, you know, I'm looking at the people who are saying those kind of things to me, and I'm like, oh, they're right.
Yeah. That's the other thing is employees will kind of tap each other out sometimes, like if they see someone's getting stressed, people will come up, hey, can I help you out with that? Like, that's amazing that people are attuned to each other's secondary traumatic stress symptoms.
Absolutely.
And know that if a kid's pushing your buttons, you see someone escalating who's your coworker, help them out. You know, say, hey, let me get this one. You help me with my hard one.
Yeah, absolutely. And Judge, when you said that about them, like, calling you out when you yell it reminds me of, I'll take a personal moment of privilege to say that when I yell at my child on occasion, he will say to me, you're not allowed to yell at me.
Oh.
And I'm like, I'm a really great parent. You know, I feel like you should feel.
Absolutely.
Like you're like, I'm a really great judge that is a great leader.
Absolutely.
Right?
But they recognize when I'm messing up.
Right,
Yeah.
that's right.
And not
they
only
can tell you.
Yes, I was like, not even recognize it, but recognize it and feel confident, but they can tell you.
That's right.
Which is what we
that's
want.
the building trust.
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. And you know, for me, it's, you know, the phrase that people say, there's no little I's. I mean, there's no big I's in teams.
Yeah.
It's not about me. It's not about just me being the judge and having the power and doing this. You know, I have the ability to help us move and change the culture, but we got to do it together. We got to do it as a team, and it can't be just judge's vision and judge wants us to do this, judge wants us that. No, I want it
started as that.
Yes,
but no,
I want it to be all of our visions.
Yeah.
We want to do better just for each other, for our children and the family that we serve, and to recognize that, you know, because of all of the trauma and the crisis that we see on a regular basis, that we got to do more for each other, that we got to be there for each other, that we got to protect each other, that we just got to take care of one another as a team.
Yeah, this is the sacred work.
Yes.
So we have a question now. So it says, what are your suggestions for staff promoting a trauma-informed culture in your organization when your leadership might not be champions? Like they're saying that, you know, in their case, they may not have a Sheila. They literally say, we don't have a Sheila and a Kathy in our organization. So what are your suggestions for that?
You know, for me, and I appreciate that. I do know that it is easier to do when you have the leader at the front that's leading the way and saying this is what we've got to do. But I think each individual can do it on their own, and they can help to change the culture by first, if they know that a coworker is feeling bad or doing something, they can easily go to that coworker or go to their supervisor and say, I really feel like Kathy needs a break. Is it okay if I help them out with some of their work? And so individuals can do the same work. It doesn't go as fastly or doesn't go as easily when it's on an individual by individual basis. But what happens is with one individual doing it, then other people will say, that was awfully kind of them when they stepped up to do this for me.
Like a domino.
It's like a domino effect. You know, it works both ways. Positivity is a domino effect. So if you are positive to everybody, you come in every morning, say, good morning, I hope your day was great yesterday. And, you know, if you need to talk about anything, I'm here. And you do that for your people, your coworkers that you're working for, then the people that receive it will say, well, I like that. Let me try that. And so it becomes a domino effect. And hopefully by the time it's dominoing around all the coworkers, the heads will see, there's something different about our staff. They're making a change. Maybe we should see what they're doing.
And then with the trauma-informed organization elements, I think suggesting trainings is a good way to do it. People don't want you to tell them what to do. Most leaders, Sheila doesn't mind. She's not normal. But most leaders don't want you to tell them or even suggest that what they're doing is wrong. But making trainings available, the knowledge that there are resources out there about best practices in trauma is always a really good idea. Just kind of, you know, say, hey, I heard about this training. And then maybe they'll start to think that, you know, they came up with it on their own, and it's a great idea. So.
You know, drop the Family Center card on their desk.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, and say, you know, you don't have to say anything, just drop the card.
Yeah.
You know,
I heard this group is, this group does some good work. Yeah.
Right.
I love it. So there's a comment, and it says, great job, ladies. I don't have any questions. I have loved hearing about the work you have been doing. It is much needed and powerful. So I think that's a good way to end, and I want to echo those remarks. So thank you again for your time. Thank you for transforming the culture in our city. Thanks for reducing crime through effective means. And thank you for leading from where you are to influence people around the nation.
Thank you so much, Jen.
Right.
Thank you, all
Love
of
it.
you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks for being here.
Bye-bye.